Welcome so much. Thank you again for joining us. We at Unity are so grateful to have people from all around the United States joining us today in honor of World Suicide Prevention. Unity is so grateful to our partners and co-hosts today from We Are Native and Thrive. These are some experts in the field, and we're eternally grateful for our young Native youth leaders who will be sharing messages of hope and just amazing resources that they found helpful throughout their time as being regional representatives for Native youth everywhere. So if you haven't yet, we still have people joining us, but we'll go ahead and get started. Please go ahead and take time to introduce yourself in the chat, your name, your tribe or organization, and where you're joining us from. So we have people from South Carolina. Thank you so much for our tribal liaison from Maricopa County Department of Public Health, Center Native American Health Center from San Francisco. We have amazing youth councils from Tesuque in New Mexico, as well as amazing people from all over. So continue to introduce yourselves. It's really amazing just to make these connections. And if you have any questions today in the chat, that's where we can communicate with each other. If you have any needs for support, we also have resources available during our webinar today. So to get us started, I would like to hand the floor over to our National Unity Co-President, Watson Whitford. Watson, would you like to start us off in a good way?
Yes, thank you, Lauren Ashley, and thank you again, everybody, for your attendance today. I'll just do a quick introduction of myself before I do the prayer. Tantikia wawa panatang tsigasun asniwa titikutinia inanas nianan no, sorry. I was trying to introduce myself in Cree, and I don't remember my age in Cree. But also yate kido shidene she watson ut she tabahan shle chupwa Cree bashish chin but atni da she chupwa Cree da shanele. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Watson Whitford. I come from the Chippewa Cree tribe in Rocky Boy, Montana, and also the Navajo Nation and from the Four Corners area. I'm currently the Unity co-president, serving alongside the female co-president, Caitlin Johnston, and alongside our other representatives that represent different regions within the United States. And so I'm very appreciative to be asked to do the prayer for today. And so I ask you all to join me, pray in your own language, pray in your mind. And when we pray today, let's think about our relatives that are going through hard times and to think about them to have a strong mind and to find that comfort and that peace within our culture, within our language, within our families. Let's think about that and pray for them in that way. So I'll start with our prayer. Emaun tayo nan kisimantu, diyan danae. Gawin na neski, nutugwaw tayo kan kihiwit niwawa sa sakit sa. Kisagaw pi simtips kaw pi sa mga panatagat sa kusag. Pi swag. Kistigana pi siskwag. Mustus kusiya wikask. Kinaskom totin for today, for allowing us to come together in this webinar, in this meeting, to be able to come together through online, to be able to connect and join with each other, to speak about these difficult topics, to speak about solutions for our people, to speak about these things that and figure out ways to help our people. Dainan Kisimantu. I ask that during our webinar today, we could be able to all think well and to be able to be strong through this, to be strong for the ones that are having a tough time, to be strong for the ones that aren't here with us anymore too. Dainan Kisimantu. Ego, I ask that you could watch over the families. If they're affected by these kinds of things, you could watch over them. You could help them heal. Ego, I ask that we could continue to advocate to prevent these things from happening. We could show care and love for each other, and we could be kind to one another too, so that these things won't happen. I ask that it could be that way for all of us, and we could remember our teachings of kindness, of care, of love for one another, so that we could continue to have our community, to have our young people, to have everybody here working together, enjoying each other's company too. I ask that it could be that way for us, and we could be able to work together to make new connections, to make new family, and we could do that today here in this webinar. Egwa, I ask that everybody could take something good with them from today's webinar. They could take good resources, good feelings. They could be able to take that healing too. Kinaskom toten for everything that we have. I ask that we could be able to have a good rest of our day, sleep well tonight, and to again wake up in the morning feeling good. Kinaskom toten tainan kisimantu. Hi hi. Thank you all.
Thank you, Watson, so much for those words and opening us in a good way. Before we move on to our introductions, we know that suicide prevention touches a wide variety of people in different ways. So if you yourself have been impacted by suicide in any way, whether it's in your community, we just ask that we take a moment to honor those that have been impacted by putting their first name in the chat. We know that prevention work is heart work, and that it's motivated and inspired by those who have been affected. So we just take a moment to honor them. So please go ahead and put the name of your loved one or a community in the chat so that we can all include them in our work and just recognize those who inspire our work in prevention. All right, and then I will hand it back over to our EC members.
Be good. Ashley.
Sorry, guys. Hi everyone, my name is Ashley Johnston and I'm your guys' Pacific Region representative for Unity. And am I doing? And what? And our youth leaders that are on the conference today will be Watson Whitford, our male co-president, Caitlin Johnston, our female co-president, Mahaya Ramirez, our Southern Plain representative, and also our vice president, Jalen Harvey, our Western representative, and also our secretary, Mazzy Countryman, our Northwest representative, Ashley Johnston, our Pacific representative, Kaylee Evans, our Southeast representative. Our agenda for today, we had our blessing and safe messaging by Unity, coping skills by Unity, ways to help peers by Unity, Native suicide prevention resources by We Are Native, and then we have our closing prayers.
Hello, everyone. My name is Caitlin Johnston. I'm your female co-president of Unity, and today I will be reading the National Unity Council's top 10 issues. Our number 1 issue is substance abuse. Number 2 is suicide. Number 3 is education/school dropout. 4 is missing murdered Indigenous relatives. 5 is single parent household / incarcerated loved ones. 6 is bullying and gossiping. 7 is lack of cultural identity. 8 is unhealthy relationships. 9 is blood quantum. And 10 is lack of positive role models.
Moving on to safe and effective messaging, our prevention guidelines on research on how to talk about suicide in a safe way, because sometimes some words can be very triggering for those who have been victims or know somebody who have gone through this as well. So, it's very important that we discuss this in a very safe manner to where everybody can feel comfortable. Yeah, but before we get into it, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Jalen Harvey. I come from the Navajo, Acoma Pueblo, and Hopi tribes. I currently serve as the Western Area Representative and Secretary with the National Unity Council Executive Committee. So I oversee tribal youth councils within the states Arizona, Nevada, and Utah. And I just wanted to say, Escala, thank you all for taking time out of your day to be here with us and to discuss this very important matter of suicide prevention. But moving on to the topic of safe and effective messaging, the National Action Alliance Framework for Successful Messaging website is a very helpful tool that can help people working in suicide prevention and mental health promotion, as well as ensuring that all of our message about suicide are strategic, safe, positive, and make use of relevant guidelines and best practices. The framework for successful messaging is also an amazing resource as well to help people messaging about suicide to develop messages that are strategic, safe, positive, and make use of relevant guidelines and best practices. It was created by the National Action Alliance for Suicide Prevention as part of its focus on changing the public conversation about suicide. Moving on to the do's. It's very important that we seek and provide more information on how we can find help for the topic of suicide. So, some do's would be, inspire hope, as well as, like I said, encouraging help seeking and provide information on finding help and the importance of emphasizing prevention. Reinforce the fact that there are more ways that we can take action as Indigenous people. If you may know anybody, or if you may have thoughts of suicide, or as well as emphasizing that suicide are preventable and should be prevented to the extent possible. Listing the warning signs as well as risk and protective factors of suicide. So teaching people how to tell if they or someone they know may be thinking of harming themselves, and including lists of warning signs around either your cultural buildings or your school campuses. And lastly, highlighting effective treatments, about mental health problems. So you could just do like messaging as far as identifying protective factors that could reduce the likelihood of suicide and risk factors.
Here are some examples of safe messaging campaigns that you guys could post or you can share.
I think it's back to Ashley.
Hello everyone, my name is Kaylee Evans. I'm the Southeastern representative, and I'll be telling you about some of the don'ts, or like the things to avoid that can be unsafe or unhelpful. So the first thing is repeated, prominent, or sensational coverage. A lot of times when people in our communities lose a loved one, they would like to keep that information private. And so it's very important that you respect the wishes of families and you keep the information private as you can, and you avoid coverage on social media or anything like that. Next is details about suicide method or location. This is very harmful. It can help encourage people to do this, and we don't want to do that. We want to shy people away from taking this unhelpful method of pain medicine, essentially, is what it is. Next is portraying suicide as a common or acceptable response to adversity. This is absolutely not acceptable. We should try to help our youth, and we should try and bring them to helpful methods of communication with their families and just trauma relief. Next is glamorizing or romanticizing suicide, presenting simplistic explanations for suicide because like I said earlier, it's not a simple thing to do. And then lastly is including personal details that encourage identification with the person who died.
These are some examples of last year's Unity poster campaign or the contest posters. These are some of our winners too. There's the Kiowa Truth Youth Council and the Fort Hall Youth Council. They're really good examples of just what we're trying to think of for our poster contest. And if you're looking to make one of the posters, here's some examples, and it just is talking about how you can just practically give a little message to others and talk to them about how important suicide truly is and what number to call if you're ever in need of help. Although sometimes people might just skip past the posters that are always posted, there's always going to be at least someone who's going to be paying attention, and it'll make somebody feel a little bit better. So if you guys are interested in creating a poster for suicide prevention, there is I think there's like a guideline of what needs to be included, and that's all on the Unity website. Thank you.
Moving on to healthy and unhealthy coping skills. Things like stressful events, demanding life situations, physical and emotional problems, as well as other factors, are just some of the things that can build up to a crisis of suicidal thoughts and behaviors, which may also lead directly to self-harm. Also, I apologize. My name is Mahaya Ramirez. I am the Southern Plains Regional Representative, as well as the Vice President here at Unity. But moving along, there are some steps you can take to manage challenges, strengths, and overall coping skills to improve your overall psychological health, allowing you to get past suicidal thoughts and feelings. It's also essential to explore contributing factors to poor mental health in Native youth, such as systemic racism and intergenerational trauma. Some of the best prevention efforts help teach healthy coping skills like mindfulness, meditation, and deep breathing exercises. Substance abuse and behavioral addictions contribute to suicides. Suicide prevention efforts among American Indian and Alaskan Native populations have to go a step further to consider the content and consequences of current inequities as well as historical traumas, including intergenerational transmission that contributes to the effect continues to affect American Indian and Alaskan Native persons, families, and communities today. It is also important to understand that many contributing factors when planning prevention messages for your communities.
So yes, these are all amazing protective factors. It's just good to know when you're creating your messaging that everybody is aware of, yes, our communities have risk factors, but not to focus solely on those. Again, the research shows that just making sure that we continuously share that there are cultural protective factors built into our community so that we know as we're sharing with our young people that they have all of these tools at their disposal.
Hello, everyone. My name is Maisie Countryman, and I'm the Northwest representative for the National Union Executive Committee. And I'm also a student at Idaho State University majoring in pre-pharmacy. And I just want to thank you all for joining in on this webinar today and learning more about how we can prevent this really heavy topic that Native American communities all across the country deal with. So to start off, tools in my medicine bag, this is kind of a way of keeping those resources for yourself or even for those who may need them in your life. And so the first one is the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline number, and then the Suicide Prevention Resource Center, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services, the Indian Health Services Suicide Prevention and Health Program. And if you guys have any resources that you guys know of, it'd be great if you drop them in the chat so that people on the Zoom can make note of them and, share them with each other. And I thought it was kind of cool in my area where I'm from in Pocatello. We actually have this resource called Bannock Foundation, where it's a foundation nonprofit where various programs are provided for youth in my area, as well as free counseling and interventions where they can come together. And another one that I like that my youth council advisor actually has in her office is the Native American Lifeline. And it's 1-800-273-TALK, or you can text 8255 to that number and there'll be a lifeline that'll pop up. So for the Suicide Prevention Resource Center, the SPRC is the only federally supported resource center devoted to advancing the implementation of the National Strategy for Suicide Prevention. I really think this is a good, resource, and if you guys want more information and resources involving that, you can find at sprc.org.
Native Strong is another resource. Native Strong is designed to inform and educate tribal communities about suicide prevention. They provide resources and toolkits that are free to download and share. I highly encourage that you go visit their website at nativeandstrong.org.
These are another really good resource. Some people in former web discussions have really asked, what should I do if somebody is having thoughts of suicide? Like, what are some simple steps that you can remember? So feel free to screenshot this, and our partners at We Are Native will be going into more depth with this, but the National Institute of Mental Health provides 5 simple steps. So ask directly, ask if they're thinking about taking their lives. Realize that this is a hard question to say out loud. So we encourage everybody to find the right words, what fits with you, what fits with your religion and your background. And but making sure that it's direct, because it opens the door for conversation. And like I said, we'll talk more about that with our partners, but just being there, listening without judgment, acknowledging their feelings, help keep them safe for now. Safe for now means different things than safe forever. Sometimes somebody can't promise you that they'll make sure to stay safe for the rest of their life. That may seem overwhelming. So safe for now, meaning I can get through this day. Small steps, thinking, how can I be safe for tonight, for the immediate needs, reducing their access to lethal means or items or places. Ultimately, we need to remember we're not the saviors, right? We're not there to fix all their problems or, make sure that everything is good for them. We are there to be a resource and to let them know they're supported, they're heard, they're valued, and that comes in the next step of help them connect. So there's so many resources that we're talking about today, and please add more resources in the chat, because this is this way that we're going to make sure that people find the right resource for them, right? And then following up, stay in touch to see how they're doing. That could mean like saying, hi, good morning, hope you're doing well. Please let me know if you had time to talk to that doctor, etc. So there's different resources and different ways, but when it comes down to it, these are the 5 steps, action steps that anybody in the world can take to make sure somebody is safe.
Next is like how to ask about there's like tips on how we can talk about it. So like the first is, to take a deep breath, that it's okay to be scared or anxious about asking the question, because sometimes, it could be a very sensitive topic. And just the importance of saying things you shouldn't say, because like I said earlier, some things can be triggering. But suicide is something most of us are used to talking about. But it's very important that we get comfortable being uncomfortable and taking a deep breath to ground yourself. Another is to know your resources, to be familiar with the support resources available, like school counselors, a community mental health agency, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, or the Trevor Lifeline. And like how Maisie said too, how her advisor had the number, I think that's very important that, those people that we look up to, they also have those resources laid in front of us. Another is to create a safe space, finding a space that is private and comfortable to discuss the topic of suicide, and think how this person likes to talk. Do they prefer sitting face to face or talking while walking? Just taking a moment to silence your cell phone and close the door, because you just want all your attention to them and not have any distractions in any way. Start with the I've noticed. So you could state the reasons you are concerned about them, like changes in mood, recent life events, or concerning behaviors. But also, remind them and, tell them, that care about, them and their mental health and everything. So, it's very important that you, remind them why you're there. Another is to ask open-ended questions. To get the conversation going, ask open-ended questions like, I'd like to understand more about what you're going through, or can you tell me more? Because you can assume, but sometimes that's not the best choice to do. So, just being straightforward on why you guys are talking. And next is to ask the question, instead of kind of um, moving around it, just be direct, and, that direct language, and asking if they've been thinking about suicide or ending their life, or word suicide sends the message. Because if we use, we can talk about this here, and a big thing is, avoiding the use of like hurting yourself, because that is very different from suicide. Um, and listen without judgment, avoid problem solving and advice giving. Instead, show them that they are being heard, and that you are truly listening to them. And that kind of goes into showing them why you care, and just being there, and nod and really acknowledge what they're saying, and really taking in everything so you can understand the situation better. And lastly, connecting with resources and follow up, so you can connect them with the resources you gathered from the first step, and offer to call or connect to these resources with them. And finally, making a plan to follow up and ask how they are going to in the near future. Because it's very important to have them, that we need them here with us to continue to be there. So
So this is a great resource as well, the safety plan. Just this was developed by We Are Native and Thrive. And as you can see, it has the different medicines on there. So we encourage everyone to have a copy of a safety plan. You can even just save it on your phone, because the idea is there's anytime somebody is feeling unsafe or feeling unwell, it's always good to have these items on hand. And it's something we can also share like on social media. You can fill in people I can reach out to. You can talk about your internal coping skills. And it's good to fill out your safety plan before you're in crisis, right? So something you can do today as part of the National Suicide Prevention Day is to go ahead and make a safety plan. Establish in the event of a crisis, what would your go-to emergency hotlines be? There's different specialized ones, whether you're a veteran, a member of the LGBTQ community, or even texting Native for a peer-to-peer hotline. And then lastly, steps I can take to make my environment safer. In your home and in your life, things that may be triggering you or things that you could do to just stay safe. And it's always a good idea just to have these things done and in place in the future. If you may need it, you'll have it saved on your phone or nearby. So next we're going to transition. I do want to give a round of applause to our amazing Native youth leaders. Right now we're going to actually transition with a really great video. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's see here. And this video was developed by our partners at We Are Native. And it was in partner with 988, and this is brand new. They just developed it, and we're going to take a moment to watch together, and then we'll hand it over to our amazing partners. So in the if you have any questions, please go ahead and share them in the chat. And thank you so much for those who are sharing resources and just encouraging words. So we'll go ahead and share the video now.
And Sukta, Northern Cheyenne. So this is the Native and Strong Lifeline. This is Volunteers America, Western Washington, and our tribal services is comprised of the Native and Strong Lifeline, 988 option 4, that serves all the tribes in Washington state. And then we also have the Native Resource Hub, where we support with resources and collaboration with tribes on their protocols on tribal, crisis mobile units and DCRs, and also just getting services to our relatives that truly need it. So we're here to offer hope and definitely always want to have an open heart into opening up into this space and in serving our people. So this is our conference room. This is our main call center. So there's a lot of cubicles and our main working space for our team.
I just didn't think about it that way, and I was like closed-minded, just based on conditioning and learning, So I've unlearned a lot of things. I was like, wow, I was very selfish and I was very self-centered.
Well, I grew up on the Tulalip Reservation. Growing up, I witnessed a lot of the afflictions that our Native population goes through, and so I came here wanting to provide another avenue for our Native people to reach out to, just because I know that's hard too, that trust of, I need help, I'm gonna ask for help. And I know that's really difficult for a lot of people to do. We have some artwork on here, really collaborating in getting representation from different communities and designing our space and decorating it. We are one of a kind in a call center. We, offer that peer-to-peer support of being heard by another Native Indigenous person who understands a lot of things. And so a lot of that beauty that comes into the work is when people understand and know and can hear just maybe tiny little things in a call. Our counselors are super intuitive and understand that maybe there is something underlining, and they know which questions to really navigate into making sure somebody feels safe and heard and not rushed through. This is Mia Click, our Native and Strong Lifeline coordinator. Yeah. I'm just working my way to the food. Okay. And this is Clarissa. Oh, this is Mariah. And her daughter. Yeah, and Mariah's our shift lead. You do a lot of amazing peer support work. I know outside of the work you do with us. And a lot of times she's hearing about events before we do or I do. So
I just be myself because I think the number one thing that is important is for the people that call in to know that we're just normal and we're just like them too. And most of us have probably been through the same exact experiences. And that's why we're sitting on the other end of these phones, is so that we can help people through those difficult things that they're trying to navigate in their lives.
And this is our fearless leader, Levi. They were complimenting all of the live plants because they thought they were fake. I was like, that's Jacqueline and Levi.
Yeah, lots of live plants. I always say they help keep me calm with everything that's going on. So, yeah.
Yeah, and this is Shalene Richards. She is our 988 coordinator. And she supports the 988 phones team, and is really our sister, program with Native and Strong Lifeline. And
I love Volunteers of America, first of all, because they have helped not only Indigenous, Afro-Indigenous, people of color, underserved populations, 125 years starting as a ministry of service, right, to humans. And so that's why I joined the ministry team. But also, I love being Afro-Indigenous. It is something that I am thankful for, the spiritual influence, the cultural influence, despite the obstacles, despite the racism and or, anything else that has come systemically. What really matters is the focus on the love and the healing and the service to community. And that is exactly why I'm here.
And this is a really great space, and one of my favorite ones, the quiet room. And it's really our wellness space where we hope that if you had a call, a difficult call, an escalated call, that maybe it hit close to home and there was a lot of feelings or different things that came up. This is really that space to just take time to breathe and take care of themselves.
And people call up and oftentimes they're they're really upset and they're crying, and I just, I try to talk to them like I'm their friend or their relative, and I just say, hey, you know what, it's okay, just take your time, it's all right, I'm here for you, and we can talk about whatever you want to talk about, and when you're ready, you can tell me what the problem is, and and then and it always makes me, it's really cool when I can get somebody to laugh. When I can, because I know that's gonna lift up their spirits, and so that's always really good, when I can make them laugh. And
I'm really happy to be working in the expansion of Native and Strong Lifeline and tribal services here at VOA. We welcome people into this work. We know that part of our recovery is giving back. And so we always want people to come as they are, to understand that we'll find solutions together and not, replicate a system that they've been harmed by before.
So yes, we thank our partners for that important message, and we're so grateful to learn together. And I pass it over now to Shane from Thrive.
Thank you so much. Delahant, Squishy, Shane Lopez Johnston, Talawadini Nation. I'm here today with my partner, Thomas Ghost Dog.
How's it going, everyone? Thomas Lee Ghost Dog. We are native. How's it going?
And Tommy and I come to you guys today with our hands up. It's really impressive to see just the youthful leaders that we have here with such strong voices. I think in the work that Tommy and I have done in the past in working with youth, it's really, I think, inspiring to see such growth within young people, to be able to take that leadership position and talk about, you know, a subject like suicide that used to really not be talked about and seen as something that was very much inappropriate to discuss, to where we are today with youth that are attending conferences like this, that are presenting at it, that are trainers of suicide prevention trainings. It's really incredible. So we raise our hands to you guys. We're honored to be here today. The Northwest Portland Area Indian Health Board has a number of different projects. We really wanted to highlight the 988 suicide crisis line and the Native crisis line, that the VOA that you just saw, and Native and Strong. And so the Veterans of America, Native and Strong, is the only Native call center in the nation. And so we are hoping to have that as an expansion so that our tribal people and all of our tribal communities have access to crisis counselors that have that perspective, that Native lens, to be able to de-escalate situations that our people deal with. And so being able to go up there and really try to create something that destigmatizes, you know, what people see when they call these call centers or what they think. I think a lot of the times when we're talking with our youth, our elders, you know, our loved ones about why haven't they called 988? Most of the time it's unforeseen things that they're really commenting about, being scared that this information will be shared, and maybe they're in the military and that could, you know, jeopardize their position. So there's different things that we hear all the time. For youth, there's a youth line, right? And there's a text line. And I think knowing that there's an opportunity to talk with another, you know, Native person gives you an opportunity to talk about cultural influence outside of even just Western medicine. Western medicine has a part for sure in healing, but so does our cultural presence, our plant people, and being able to utilize our culture to be able to get to that. So we're excited today. If you haven't heard of 988, it is not just a suicide crisis line. It is a crisis line. You can literally call if you're having a difficult day, if you're, you know, dealing with something more than you thought you were going to, maybe you got an offender bender or something, you can literally call this line. So I think people oftentimes have the misinformation about it being just a suicide line. The availability for that, also, you can call for friends, you can call for family. It's not just for the person that's calling. So the important part of 988 is knowing that it's there, it's available. If you're in Washington and you press 4, you'll be able to have access to the VOA. If not, when you use 988, they'll still redirect you to the local call center. So we appreciate being able to come here and talk a little bit about 988. Next slide, please. So eventually what we're hoping is that mobile crisis response will come from that. And so when you do have somebody that needs to have help provided, that this response system that will be created through 988 will be replicated faster. So the project here in the Northwest Portland Area Indian Health Board is how do we refer our tribal callers back to tribal resources faster so that we don't have a gap in services that they're receiving. And then how do we stabilize during the crisis, and how do we take advantage of access to care that we have in our tribal communities? Next slide. So when we talk about 988 and the cultural kind of piece to it, the adaptation I think that we have for our tribal communities allows us to have a more sustained practice within those communities, that we can intertwine prevention, treatment, and recovery in situations, and also during crisis. I think when you're talking about how do you implement, you know, something that has maybe a Western format, taking the opportunity to utilize elders in the process, creating that traditional knowledge to help them kind of redirect maybe those concepts to having more of a circular thought process to it. And then obviously, I think creating trust between tribes and tribal communities to be able to access those systems of care is really important. Training and different things allow that information to be shared, and having that information be appropriate. The internet oftentimes provides misinformation for stuff. So please try to follow up if you've heard something about 988 that might not be true. Being able to follow up and ask about that is really important. So next slide. Here's some of the resources, again, we have from the Northwest Portland Area Indian Health Board. If you haven't had an opportunity to look at some of these, the VOA is on there, the Native and Strong. Please, Washington State, Northwest tribes, check it out. Other tribes, I would say, if you guys are interested in looking at how to create or possibly replicate a program like this, a crisis call center run by Native people, please reach out. The Amanda Whitecrane is definitely available. You can reach out to Tommy and I, and we can facilitate a meeting, but please look into that. Next slide. So we talked a little bit about some of the approaches that we have. I think when we're looking at stuff that comes from kind of counseling and stuff, it's hard to like know where the tribal piece comes into play for us that aren't like therapists or counselors. So therapeutic friends, having information about trauma-informed care, like strength-based approach when we work, Tommy and I, when we work with youth, just being positive and coming and having that kind of energy allows us to connect with youth on like a regular basis of like humanized level, right? We're not better than anybody. We're all here together and trying to help each other. So taking the time to connect with people is important. Give yourself that same kind of concept when looking for connecting with 988 crisis support. Next slide. So this is one of our Let's Talk. This is the old number that's on there, but you also see the text native. So you can have the chat youth line. Again, all available resources. We put them on here so that if Unity shares out the PowerPoint, you guys would have these on here. So next slide. Here's some other resources that we have, again, available. The reason that I think it's important to share these is one resource that works for some person might not work for another. So having availability to a large resource hub, you can section down. We talked a little bit. I heard some people talk about some of our population breakdown, our Two-Spirit, our elders, our veterans, right? There's specialized resources for each of them. So these are just provided through some of these. Tommy's going to drop links kind of as we're talking. So feel free to access those. Next slide. So we put this on here as we're addressing suicide. We wanted to talk about kind of how warning signs are brought up. Now, not every warning sign will be on this list, but this was this will give you like a new tool maybe to look at stuff or a different lens to look through. So we have our direct verbal cues, indirect behavioral clues, and situational clues. I'll break these down kind of through the next slide. So next slide. So when you're talking about direct verbal cues, and I should share as well, these are slides that have come from Sister Sky, IHS, revamped QPR version that's specific for our Native American population. And we've done this training a few times. So if you're interested in these slides, that training is available as well. We can help connect you with that. So when you're talking with someone that's giving you direct verbal cues, they're letting you know that they are thinking about suicide and that you need to probably get them to some help right away. So direct is right at you. You'll know right away. Next slide. Our indirect verbal cues are the ones that I feel like our youth are the ones that kind of use a lot. Let's say somebody had a bad test score and they kind of come out in the hall and they're like, I just wish I wasn't here anymore. And as like a person that's been trained in QPR, you hear that and you're like, ooh, I need to ask this question. Indirect verbal cues are just as serious though as the direct ones. So make sure you take all of these serious that you hear. Next slide. When you're talking about behavioral clues, these are things that come up that maybe you have information before, so you know that somebody has a prior attempt. Maybe people have changed their views on acquiring guns or stockpiling pills. This is an opportunity for you to step and ask questions Lots of times people give possessions away, and drugs and alcohol could be part of this with a relapse. And then making sure that maybe people's aggression or personality might have changed. So if you recognize these, this could be a warning sign, and you want to make sure to ask the person the question, are you thinking about killing yourself? Or are you thinking about taking your own life? Next slide. Situational clues tend to be things that you find that have happened to somebody. So maybe their parents are going through a divorce. Maybe they've had a recent move that's been hard on a youth. Loss of a loved one, boyfriend, girlfriend breakup. All of these play a role into that. The more information that you know about the person that's going through these situational clues, the more information that you can put together to be able to ask the question, are you thinking about killing yourself? Are you thinking about taking your life? So next slide. So that was our part for the 988 and the Thrive process. Tommy as well for We Are Native has been dropping a couple of resources. One thing that we did have is a gatekeeper walkthrough, and this will allow you to try some of your skills when talking to a youth that has suicidal ideation. So we've put it in the sidebar. You're more than welcome to take time, later or now to be able to check it out, and then give yourself a practice opportunity to ask these questions and take the opportunity, I think, to possibly save a life. So this has been wonderful. You guys are great. We're gonna chill on here. We'll be available for questions. Any resources asked for will help forward. But you guys keep doing all the great work.
We thank our partners so much in this work. It really was amazing to see some of the faces behind the numbers and behind the resources, to really know that we have Native communities and people out there who go to work every day dedicated to this work. So thank you again. We're just so grateful for our Unity EC members, for Shane and Tommy Ghost Dog. I will hand it back over to Watson Whitford for us to end in a good way.
Okay. Thank you, Lauren Ashley, again. So just really quickly before I do the prayer, to close this out, I want to thank you all for joining us today. Thank you all for taking in these resources, and I hope you could share these things and they're useful for your communities. They're useful for your families, for your schools. And I've seen my school I used to go to, Naval Prep, is here too. And so, these things are tough. The things that we go through. And there's teachings about it too in all of our cultural stories. This is a tough thing to go through. But if we have these resources, if we have our culture, our language, our ceremony, we're going to be okay. It'll be okay. It'll be good. And so I encourage you all, go home, go to your elders, go to your community and ask about these things. What are the teachings behind this? For us back home in Rocky Boy, this suicide it's our number one sin that you could do. And, taking your own life. And so, that's something that I was taught as, growing up, and to encourage people and to love one another, to care for one another. Like, that's what I've been taught growing up. And because we come from a community, we come from clan systems, we come from our family groups, all of that. And we need to try our best to honor those and to be able to care and love for one another. And so I just wanted to share that with you all, again. And I'm really thankful for all of you, thankful for your guys' strong minds, the work that you all do, and the work that we will continue to do too. And I encourage you, if you have sage or Sweetgrass, any kind of smudge around you, I encourage you to smudge yourself after this webinar is finished. Just to, if you have any of those negative feelings, sad thoughts, or anything like that, it could take it away and it could make you feel well again. So I encourage you to do that as well. But I'll go to our prayer. Amon tainan kisimantu. Tiendene. Gawin na naskino tugo tayo kan kihuat na siswi sakitak. Isigaw pisim, dipsgaw pisim, wapanata gata kusag. Pisisquag, kistigana, pieswag, mustuskusia, wikask. Hashtelya, shtewan nemastan yadihit. Kinaskum totin for today, for this webinar that we were able to be a part of, to be able to listen to these resources, to take in these resources, and to be able to take them back home and share them with our people. I ask that everybody here could get a good blessing today. They could be blessed with a strong mind, a strong body, a strong spirit, to live a long, happy, and healthy life. All of us here, to enjoy our lives too, and to be able to be a part, that joy in somebody else's life too, so that we could care for one another, we could love one another, we could be there for each other. And when we go through these tough times, and our mind goes through these things, these different thoughts, I ask that you could bless us. Put your hand on our mind, our spirit, our heart, so that we could continue on and we could persevere through these hard times. Especially as Indigenous people, we go through tough times. We've been through tough times. And so I ask that through all these things that we went through, because we went through all these things, that we could continue to be strong, so that people in the future, our kids, grandkids, great-grandkids, people that we won't even meet, they will be able to be well. They'll be able to speak their languages fluently. They'll be able to practice their ceremonies, to sing their songs, and that they could know and share their love with one another, and to care for each other, and to have that compassion and that empathy for each other too. To go up to one another and talk to each other, to see how they're doing. I ask that we could continue to keep these teachings with us. I ask that everybody could go home today in a good way, and that if they smudge themselves today, they could feel good. You could bless them in that way. Whatever they smudge themselves with, they could feel good. No negative energies, no negative feelings, thoughts will bother them. I ask that it could be that way for all of us. Kinaskum totin for allowing us to come together in this way. And I ask that we could come together again in other ways too. In person, maybe we could see each other and greet one another, to thank each other for sharing these things, for listening. I ask that it could be that way. And I ask that everybody could go home in a safe way, go to their family, go to their friends. They could sleep well tonight. I ask that could all wake up tomorrow morning and feel well, to feel strong, and to know that we could go through our day, and to be able to encourage other people to do that as well. For everything that we have, for everything that you've given to us. Thank you. We're appreciative for that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for joining. We appreciate you.
Thank you all.